Welcome to another Wednesday webinar. My name is Chris Borger. Today we'll be covering some techniques to encourage class discussion amongst your students. So what we will be doing today is I will be going over 3 short activities that you can run with your students to prepare them to engage in more conversation in your class as you teach remotely. So all of these activities are rooted in improv. So that is improvised theater, kind of a theater without any script. If you've seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, or if you've ever seen rapid fire theater here in town, those are, I guess, 2 big improv examples I can think of here. I have worked for rapid fire theater, both as a performer and as an educator for the past 10 years now. So we teach workshops quite often at rapid fire theater, both internally as public improv workshops, as well as external workshops where we'll go do corporate workshops, we'll do corporate entertainment, we'll go into schools and do professional development for teachers. We'll also do workshops with students as well from K to 12, and as far to the University Improv Club here we've worked with as well. So basically, why am I speaking about improv? It's because improv, if you're teaching improvised theater with a group of participants, it is essential that they are participating and that they are engaged and that they are willing to speak. If they are not willing or if they're not comfortable, then simply improv will not happen. So there are a lot of parallels between that and kind of encouraging class discussion amongst your students. Whenever I start off a workshop with rapid fire theater, we always begin with a game because it warms people up mentally. Obviously, coming into a class or into a workshop, we have our whole lives that we come into that with. So kind of getting a little distraction or refresher can be great. As well, they get people to communicate with each other in a way that feels more relaxed and natural. A nice little piece of symbolism I like to use here is that I hate running more than anything. I hate exercise, but I really like playing sports. I really like playing soccer, and soccer is 90% running. But I get distracted by the game of soccer, and the next thing you know, I get tricked into running or tricked into exercise. So these are a few short activities that will trick your students into speaking with each other, and that will make them feel more comfortable later on in your class when you want them to engage in academic discourse. So again, these are not games for game's sake. These are games to prepare your students so that they are more willing to contribute to class discussions as you move on. So the very first game or little activity I'll be showing you folks today is called Turn Your Camera On If. So this is a great game for larger classes, and it's really similar to the game Never Have I Ever, if you've heard of that before or remember it from the game Sociables, if that's ever come up in your life. So this game works by you have your entire class turn off their cameras, and you pose questions to your students in the following format. You say, turn your camera on if. So if the student has done that thing, they'll simply turn on their camera for 1 or 2 seconds and then turn it off. If the student has never done that thing, they just leave their camera off. So this can either be led by you, the instructor, if you want to kind of vet every question, or it can be really fun to give students a chance to ask questions as well. When students are asking each other questions, a challenge I like to give them is ask a question that will make everyone in the class turn their camera on, or ask a question that will make everybody in their class turn their camera off. Or this one can be fun. Ask a question that gets the class at a 50-50 split of cameras on and cameras off. This game allows students to get to know a little bit about each other without them having to really talk too much. They can learn about their class, and it's a really, really small ask of your students. As well, it gets your students used to having their cameras on, which can be really valuable to you later down the road. If students aren't terrified of having their camera on, that can be great. So we're going to try a little version of this right now. We're going to do a demonstration in this webinar. So now that everyone's camera is off, I'm going to ask you a question. If you've done this thing, turn your camera on for about 1 or 2 seconds, and then you can turn it off. If you've never done the thing, you can just leave your camera off. So the first one will be, turn your camera on if you have ever been to Italy. Let's see if this works. Look at that, it's great. And you can turn your cameras off now. We'll go on to our next question. The next question is, turn your camera on if you are fluent in a language other than English. Oh yeah, the world of academia. Look at all that. Beautiful. Our final question is, turn your camera on if you have ever eaten the Double Down that's sold from KFC before. If you've ever eaten the Double Down from KFC. Amazing. You watch someone eat it, that is far better than eating it itself. That's great. Thank you so much, the 2 of you who turn your cameras on. You can all turn your cameras off now. So that is a really simple game to get students engaged and getting to do a little fun, quick activity to get to know each other. This one's awesome for a first class as an icebreaker. The next game we're going to talk about is called Two Truths and One Lie. You may have also heard of this one before. Again, this one can be played as a whole class if you have a smaller class size. But if you have a giant class with 200 students, you can also divide them into smaller breakout rooms and have a few games of this going on at once. How this game works is you have students think about 3 facts about themselves. 2 of those should be truthful facts, and 1 of them should be false or not a fact. The students will then tell the rest of the class those 3 facts, and they'll be numbering them as they state them. So for example, I might go, 1, I was born in Norway. 2, I have never broken a bone. And 3, I play on the varsity soccer team. Have that student who just said those 3 facts, then cue everyone else in the class to either put up 1, 2, or 3 fingers to identify which of those facts they think is false. So again, for this activity, it's great to have the entire class turn their cameras on. However, if you want, you have a really, really big class and you don't want everyone turning their cameras on and off, you can also have them either enter it in a poll or just enter their answer in the chat. A little note for this, feel free to give students a bit of time to think of these before you actually ask them. So you can give them a heads up, maybe the class before, saying, next class, please come with 2 truths about you and 1 lie. Or you can give them a few minutes the day of. Just, it's hard if you point at someone and say, give us 2 truths and a lie. It can be a little bit of pressure to come up with on the spot. So this game is really familiar with students. And again, it gets students talking about themselves in a little bit of a structured way, but in a fun way as well. So for this game, we're going to have a demonstration. I'm going to get Graham to turn on his screen, and he is going to tell us 2 truths and a lie. Go ahead, Graham.
So number 1, I was kissed by Kylie Minogue, famous Australian actor and singer. Number 2, Miss Universe 1982 lived in the house directly behind my house, and our backyards were connected. And number 3, on the very day I got my driver's license when I was 16, I crashed my parents' car. So I'll go through those again. Number 1, I was kissed by Kylie Minogue, famous Australian actor and singer. 2, Miss Universe 1982 lived in the house directly behind mine, the backyard's connected. And number 3, on the very day I got my driver's license when I was 16, I crashed my parents' car. One of those is not true.
So you can turn your camera on and hold up the fingers of what one you think is false, or you can enter it in the chat if you like as well too. I think it's 3.
We got 1s, we got a lot of 2s, some 3s. It seems to be quite an interesting mix here. Interesting. Shall I give you the answer then? The one that is not true is when I was 16, I crashed my parents' car.
16 is not true. I knew it. This one is called Martha. Now, why it's called this, we don't know. It's an old improv game that's passed through many generations. This game encourages collaboration, abstract thinking, and it really shows the values of supporting one another in a social context. This game works best for classes with 30 or fewer students, as it requires a little bit more abstract thought than the previous 2 activities that are more straightforward. So this is a game that's better to play once a bit of camaraderie has been established in your class. Maybe don't play this game on the first day, but if you have a class coming up where you know you're going to have a lot of class discussion that you want to happen, this is a great game to play prior to that as an anticipatory activity. So this game is usually played in person in a large standing circle. And whenever anyone's about to participate or speak, normally they cue everyone else by taking a step forward into the circle. Since we're playing this on Zoom, to cue each other that we're about to participate or that your students will participate, you should have them just simply wave at the camera as a physical cue to show that they're about to begin speaking. So how this game works is a player will wave at the screen to cue to the class they're about to say something. And then they'll use their own physicality to create something and announce what they are. So for example, if I were to start off, I'd wave and go, ha, I am a tree. A second player would then add to that picture, again by waving at the camera to cue the rest of the class, and then physically creating something that would complement that first object and again announcing what they are. So maybe the second person would go, I'm a branch. And a third person would then come in for a third and final idea to again add a third complementary item. So perhaps someone else would go, I know, I am an apple. Then, after the third idea has been created, the first player, so in this case, the tree, would then choose one of those 2 complementary ideas to remain. A new set of ideas begins with that remaining player restating what they are. So if I was the tree, I'd say, all right, let's keep that apple. A new round would start and the apple would say, I am an apple. So again, we're going to have a new set of 3 things, but this set of 3 things should have nothing to do with trees or branches. So we have to think about this apple in a new context. So maybe a student would wave their hand and go, oh, I am a PC. And someone else might go, oh, I know, I'm an iPod. Again, one of those 2 would remain, and we'd continue the cycle. Remind students here not to leave their classmates hanging and to support them by adding these complementary objects. Really diving in is essential here. If you have one student who says, I'm a tree, and then it's silent for a long time, it is not a great situation. So this is so good to highlight the importance of helping each other out. We're going to do a quick kind of demonstration here. So if I could get the folks from the TEDL team to turn your cameras on, who I have in this room, we'll do a quick little demonstration of Martha.
I am a mouse.
I am a keyboard.
I am a monitor.
I am going to keep the keyboard.
I am a keyboard.
Ooh.
I'm a pianist.
I'm the song Piano Man coming out of the air.
Let's keep the pianist.
I'm a pianist.
All right, and we'll wrap that one up right there. Perfect. So you folks can turn off your cameras. Again, you can run this game as long as you want to get your students engaged. Often you'll get a lot of laughs in this one. This is a really enjoyable game, but again, requires a little bit more camaraderie and a little bit more willingness to take a risk from your students. So playing this one later on as your class progresses is a good idea. So again, we saw 3 games. We saw turn your camera on if, where everyone turns their camera on if they have done that thing. We saw 2 truths and a lie, where students take turns saying 3 facts about them and everyone else in the class guesses which is a lie. And we saw Martha, where you have your students create things in a group of 3 and then use abstract thought to rethink and reconceptualize whatever that remaining objects are. These are great activities to run with your students to break the ice on the first day, or again, to use as anticipatory activity prior to a class where you have a lot of class discussion coming up. In the chat here, I'm going to throw a link to a Google document that you all should have access to that breaks down these 3 games a little bit more if you'd like to hold on to this and try them out as your classes come up. As well, we'll be hanging out here for the next little bit in this room if anyone has any comments or questions. Thanks so much. I've been Chris Borger, and this has been Getting Students to Talk.